At the start of Honkai Star Rail, Yanqing was seen as a solid DPS character that is very easy to build, which was very helpful for every player that pulled him. But as of the past couple versions or so, Yanqing has pretty much become a bench warmer for many of those players. So today, I'm going to discuss the 2 reasons why Yanqing has lost value, which contributes to why he is at least one of the worst summonable 5 stars in the game currently, if not the worst one right now. So the first reason for Yanqing's loss of value across the game is the way that endgame content has shifted. So there's currently 3 endgame content modes, being Memory of Chaos, the Simulated Universe expansion modules, being the Storm Disaster and Golden Gears, and Pure Fiction. So the first 2 of those modes usually have around 3 enemies, usually 2 to 4 I would say is the average, while Pure Fiction always has 5 enemies. And as a hunt character, Yanqing can struggle when facing multiple enemies because all of his damage is for single targets. Now, while there are exceptions to hunt characters struggling in content with multiple enemies, and the main examples of that being Sela, Dr. Ratio, and Topaz, it is also undeniable that any hunt character would benefit from there being less enemies to fight. So with the current state that endgame content is in, it tends to be a lot more effective for players to use DPS characters that can target more than just one enemy at a time, such as Imbibitor Lunay or Jing Liu, for example. Yanqing's damage can still be good in certain situations, but many other damage dealers can more effectively clear the content in the game right now. The second reason, which I think is more important than the first one, is that Yanqing just is not a consistent damage dealer. A lot of the benefits from his kit come from his talent, which will give him an extra amount of crit rate, crit damage, and access to a follow-up attack that has a chance to freeze the target enemy. And while all these are very good buffs for Yanqing's damage and utility, they have a very inconsistent condition attached to them. So to gain access to the additional crit rate, crit damage, and follow-up attack, Yanqing cannot take damage. Once he takes damage, he loses his talent's effect until after his next skill. And this means that the damage of the skill will not only be noticeably lower due to the lack of crit rate and crit damage boost from the talent, but it also doesn't allow him to get the extra damage from his follow-up attack. And the follow-up attack specifically is very useful in Yanqing because a frozen enemy wouldn't be able to attack on their next turn, which basically increases the likelihood of his talent staying active for as long as possible. Currently, the only way to make Yanqing as consistent as possible is through the use of a character that provides shields. But the current options for this aren't as beneficial for Yanqing as they might be in other comps with other DPS characters. So starting with Fire Trailblazer, while their taunt is extremely valuable for making sure that Yanqing wouldn't get hit, the shield they provide for the team is very small, and since a lot of people would probably likely run a maybe slightly slower Fire Trailblazer unless they're really invested into them and have the right speed breakpoints and everything like that, the shield they provide ends up being very small for the team. So if an enemy either has enough effect res to not get taunted, or you haven't had a chance to reapply the taunt, then Yanqing is likely to get hit, and well, not likely to get hit, but can still get hit and lose the talent's benefits. Next up, for March 7th, while her shield can be very good, it is kind of a double-edged sword because her shield can also increase the chance of the shielded ally to be hit by enemies, which is super counterproductive for Yanqing because the main point for Yanqing is for him not to take damage as much as possible. So if he has that likelihood to be hit and he takes enough damage, he's just gonna lose his talent's effect again, which makes March 7th not really the best option for him since you also want to avoid damage while also providing shields and everything like that. And then lastly, while Jeopard is the best shield applier in the game, and I do think he will give you the most consistent experience when using Yanqing, I do think that obviously people have been able to do MOC and everything with just Jeopard, but I do think, at least in my experience, and this is coming from someone who doesn't have Jeopard, I think that in a lot of situations it's just a lot more consistent to have a healer rather than a shielder, or if you need both a shielder and a healer, then go for that. But I also do not want to downplay Jeopard either, because I know he is still very good. He is the character I want the most from the standard banner that I don't have currently. So yeah, even though there are better sustains in the game, I do still, you know, want to give Japard his credit, you know, give credit where credit's due, just because even though Yanqing can, you know, kind of hold players back sometimes, if you have Japard, you can make that work with any kind of DPS. So despite the possibilities to have a somewhat consistent Yanqing team comp, it still ends up being a lot more worthwhile to just run a different damage dealer instead, especially since there are plenty of options in the game. So to wrap this up, the small amount of value that Yanqing has left in him is mostly going to be for newer players that pull him early on to carry them throughout the story, or, you know, mid-level players that, or like mid-game players that don't have too much ice coverage built on their account and they want to have a very strong DPS and they don't want to use Herta. But once players, you know, for most players, once they get to that mid or end game state and they invest into other ice characters, or they pull other ice characters, Yanqing begins to heavily fall off in favor of many other damage dealers in the game. But I also do want to hear what you all think about him as well. I know there are still, you know, a small amount of people who are, I would say probably a small amount of people that are still running Yanqing as their main DPS or one of their main DPSs. So definitely let me know what you think about him. But with that, I'm going to end off the video here. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed and haven't already, definitely be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell. But with that, I will see you all next time.